You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
If you want to have guarantees, you have to buy a washing machine.
Conte with a scooping header!
We don't lose a match, either we win or we learn. And today we learned.
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Teller. Onside, 1-0! Boufal shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. We ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast and newsletter dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans, and available right here on southamptondelivery.com. My name is Matt Markstone. I am the host of the show, and no matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, whether this is your first time or you've been here before, thanks for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it, because Saints finally got a win. We are off the mark. We are off and running. And was it the best performance we put in? Maybe not. Did we make it more difficult than we had to? Sure, but it's a clean sheet. It's a win away from home. It's something that hasn't happened a lot in recent memory, I guess. And I'm lucky enough this week to be able to be joined by Ben Stroud of the Archers Road End, at Archers Road End on Twitter, to talk about it all. And we get to talk about a lot. We can talk about a lot of things, from the announcement of the new assistant coach, the video analyst, from Fraser Forrester to Celtic, to the win and the formation, and Kevin Danso getting his debut out of position, but still looking like a perfectly capable footballer. So lots and lots of stuff to discuss with Ben, and it's always a pleasure to be able to catch up with him. So we do all of that. We take your questions, and that is the show for this week. So we will get to that just in a minute. But I wanted to give a shout out to the newest member of the Patreon community, Duffy Alverson, the former Seattle Sounders Fan of the Year and current co-host of the Yellow Card podcast. Thank you so much for your support of the show. As part of what Duffy will get is he gets access to a private chat, and he gets priority for having his questions answered each and every week on the show. So thank you, Duffy, for that. I look forward to hearing from you soon, even though we talk quite a bit as it is. And the other thing I wanted to say is a special thanks to Dave Lee, also a Southampton supporter, also a member of the Patreon community, for taking the time for him and his wife to meet my family at our local team. And I say local in quotation marks because it's a 3-hour trip each way for us to get there. It's a 2-hour trip each way for him, but it is the closest professional soccer or football team, if however you want to say it, here to us. And we made the trip. We got to see the Fresno Foxes take on the Colorado Switchbacks. And in true Southampton fashion, the Colorado Switchbacks were up 1-0 late in the game, managed to lose 2-1, but that's okay because we were there to support the Foxes. The 90th minute winner from a corner was great to see, to witness. My kids were actually, they enjoyed it the whole time. And it was only 100 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff, which was 7:30 p.m. So overall, a fantastic night, even if the seats were maybe a bit too close and we had to move back to get a better perspective, for tactical shift reasons and things like that. But anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Let's get to my conversation with Ben, and we'll talk to you soon. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, Ben Stroud. You can find him on Twitter at Archers Road End, and you can get his writing at archersroadend.wordpress.com. Although he's currently on a bit of a break from that. But Ben, welcome back to the show, and thanks for joining me on this Sunday afternoon.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Matt. Thanks for having me on.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and it's going to be especially nice to talk to you after a win. And the sun is just coming up here. It looks like a nice day, and I am waking up slowly, so my voice will hopefully grow into the rest of the show. But yeah, I'm super excited. But I should say that the show has grown a little bit since you were on last time. So maybe there are some people on here who haven't visited the Archers Road End, and maybe just give them a little bit of an idea of what to expect if they show up on the website.
Yeah, sure. The Archers Road End is a blog. It's not. I feel like the constant churn of news
is already being serviced on Twitter and on the various sites, like Read, Southampton, even The Athletic now, Club site, Daily Echo, everything like that. So there's a real saturation of news. I don't feel like I need to add to that. So when I do write, it's when I've got something to say, and it tends to be a little bit more long form. So I've always enjoyed long form journalism. So when I do write, I like to kind of put my time in, and I like to kind of take my time with it. So taking a bit of a break from it at the moment. But yeah, if you land on the Archers Road end, what you'll find is kind of, slightly longer posts, not quite War and Peace, but pretty close to it. But no, it's all good fun. If you love reading about Southampton and you love Southampton Football Club as much as I do, then I think you'll find something there to enjoy. If not, just follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, because I'm always chatting on there, really.
Yeah, and you are there is a certain kind of a threshold on Twitter where certain people tend to rise above the noise, and I think you're one of them. And it's always nice because there are certain people on there who make statements that are kind of just run of the mill. They retweet stuff. I'm one of those. I don't tend to say anything very, I think, prolific or profound or anything like that. But it seems like whenever I see something from you or Lucy or Luke or some of the other people, like it's just, like you tend to nail it more often than not. So, it's nice to see you still active on there, even if you're not writing as much. But yeah,
that's really kind of you to say. Thank you very much. I mean, if you're mentioning me alongside Lucy and Luke, that's a very kind thing to say. So thank you.
Well, I mean, you did it, not me. You're writing this stuff. I can say sometimes I check back on Archers Road and just to make sure I haven't missed something. I'm like, okay, like I'm still caught up. So, and what you say about the news cycle is totally true. There's a lot of news out there, and it's a lot of kind of recycled stuff. And I know certain websites, I think Luke mentioned they were trying to, I guess Fresh Press was trying to get away from that. And I was kind of struggling with that with the newsletter as to what to put in there. And I think we've hopefully happened upon something that'll work, and allowing kind of a rotating group of people to write once a month about something something related to the club that they really like. And then it doesn't turn into news, and we can always recap the stuff at the beginning or whatever. Or I think it all works out, because I think it's, like you said, long form journalism is something unique and different, and I super enjoy it. But I guess not for everybody, but I guess that's just what it is. But so I mean, did you get a chance to watch either the match or listen to the match yesterday at all?
Yeah, both. It was good. It's always good for us to get a win. People can talk about performance, and I'm sure that we'll talk about performance later, but really kind of the main thing that I'll take away from the game, and the main thing that I'm pleased about, and I think the fans really should be pleased about, is the fact that A, we've got 3 points, and B, we've got a clean sheet. I mean, that's brilliant. It's been a long time since that's happened.
Yeah.
Brighton, in fact. It was Brighton, in fact. Last time, I think we kept a clean sheet away from home. So, and won, I think. So yeah, that was really good for us. We play there every week.
Yeah, seriously. Even, I mean, well, like you said, we'll talk about the performance, because I definitely think it needs mentioning. But yeah, we haven't gotten that result since Brighton away, I think. And it was pointed out in one of the articles on The Athletic that you mentioned earlier that Hasenhuttl only played the 4-2-2-2 a couple of times, and one time was away at Brighton last year, and we got the same result. And so, we'll move on, and we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we continue to improve.
Well, I think that it was really refreshing to see Hasenhuttl go with his preferred formation. It's something that I've really been crying out for, even from early on in the season. It's been a bit frustrating this year to play with 5 at the back, with 3 centre backs, because adding more centre backs doesn't always mean you're going to get a better performance with Southampton,
right?
Because you've got 3 people in the middle, who let's see. Hopefully, Danso, early performances look like he's a good player, but all of our centre-backs, including Bednarek, who I think's great. He's one of the best blockers I've ever seen play for us. He seems to get himself in front of the ball like no other centre-back I've seen kind of in recent memory. But even he gets caught on his heels a lot. He can be caught kind of static in some cases. Up until we signed Danso, and hopefully it'll be different, all of our centre-back options have got what I like to call a catastrophic error in them per game. So you've got all of these centre-backs, and they are all capable of one error that will cause us to concede a goal.
Yeah.
And normally in the Premier League, if you make a mistake, because it's so high stakes and there's such high quality there, it means you score a goal. It means that you're conceding a goal. So seeing us have 3 centre-backs playing in that conservative formation was really disappointing and slightly frustrating, if I'm honest. So when I saw us playing and going to, Ralph's preferred 4-2-2-2 with the kind of double pivot, it was a really nice thing to see, and it actually made me feel quite confident, because when I saw that, I thought Ralph's confident as well. When I see him roll out the 5 at the back, I'm like, you don't think we're going to get anything from this game, do you? But when I see him kind of be confident and play the formation that he likes, I feel like everybody's more comfortable. Fans are more comfortable and confident. Players are more comfortable and confident. And I think, like I said, performance, like you said, you probably agree, performance wasn't, world class yesterday.
Sure.
But clean sheet and a win.
Yeah.
And sometimes in football, you've just got to take that. I've seen some absolute hot garbage up and down the years. Following Saints up and down the country, and to be honest, I would just take that. My first thought is, 3 points towards safety. So
sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Three games in, 3 points. I mean, if you do the math, we're on pace for 38, and that's generally safety. So, I mean, if we're just, I don't want to do that, but that does cross my mind. And I think
you're a true Saints fan.
Yeah, I think you guys have gotten me there. It's difficult to imagine now. It's been, almost 7 years of watching the team now, 8 years maybe, and it's crazy just how time flies by, and you kind of become, you get super excited about the season, and as soon as it starts, you're like, oh no, this is going to be a roller coaster of a year. And I could say I woke everybody up yesterday when Djenepo finally got us on the board. So my wife's like, well, I could tell you scored because the clapping was there and the cursing wasn't. And I was like, it's totally true.
Yeah. But it was interesting. It was an interesting lineup yesterday.
Yeah.
Like I said, seeing Danso start his first game essentially as a right back was interesting.
Yeah. I have questions about that because I think Adam Leach tweeted afterwards that Ralph Hasenhuttl said he was planning on starting Danso at left back for Bertrand, even if Bertrand wasn't injured.
Sorry.
That's fine. Even if he wasn't injured, and that puzzled me because, I mean, we should be happy that he's in the team. We got him on. We got him in. I think we have the option at the end of the season, so that's good. I'm under the kind of impression that all of our center backs, like you said, they have the catastrophic error in there. You have, Bednarek gets caught on his heels. Yoshida tends to give the ball away or get turned a little bit. Vestergaard is just he's slow, and they are all good center backs, but they're not elite level center backs. They're not Virgil van Dijk. They're not Toby Alderweireld. They're not Jose Font. They all have issues, and
they're not top 10. They're not top 10 centre backs.
Sure, and that's okay. We haven't been a top 10 team in some time, so we have to kind of, and be realistic, I guess, in looking at that. But I think that you bring in a 20-year-old center back, and like that's probably not going to change everything. And I was just kind of under the, I don't know. I guess I was just kind of under the impression that like we needed somebody to kind of put some leadership back there and like take charge of the back line because Gunn is still young. And maybe if we did that, then we could play a back four. But I mean, I think whether you play a back five or a back four, like you said, like the center backs are who they are. They're going to make those kind of the errors that they make. And we just have to kind of, as they get better, as they get older and better and more experienced, hopefully they will cut those out. Because Yoshida's, I mean, you look at the progression Yoshida's had, he's been 100 times better over the past couple of seasons than he was when he was just filling in. And you just kind of look at it and say, hopefully that happens, and the rest of the team can kind of pick that up. And we have to improve in front of goal still, I think, and that's okay. So I think we are a team right now that has the ability to progress and has the ability to play really good football. And also, like we saw yesterday, has the ability to make it look like we were down to 10 men for portions, but still, managed to get a win.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting. It shows a commitment to a formation if he was willing to play Danso in that role. And also it kind of shows, Danso's kind of potential adaptability. He's learning to fit in with our style of play. But we are what we look. We are exactly what we look like. We're a work in progress. The new signings, learning to fit in with our style of play. Players who are returning to fitting in with a style of play. He'll still be looking to kind of fit in with his teammates, but he looks like a good player.
Yeah. In terms of Danso on the ball, he looks capable. He looked comfortable. He looked like he could pass. He just didn't quite look like he had played left back in a system where we want width out of our left back. He at a couple times got caught not quite back far enough to be really aiding Vestergaard defensively and not forward enough to be aiding Redmond offensively. But so much of our attack came down that side anyway, through Redmond, and so much of our ball possession came there that we tended to like kind of shift everybody that way, and we forced Brighton to play over there, and they lost the ball. I mean, if you look at the opening kind of sequence of play, like we forced them to lose the ball a lot on that sideline, and we just kept having kind of throwing after throwing and kind of slowly working it down, and it didn't come to anything, but we were kind of dictating stuff there, and even if it wasn't really doing much to create chances. But I mean, anybody else in the lineup that kind of stood out to you? I mean, the fact that we had Ings and Adams both starting up front, and I think both of them looked like both of them worked extremely hard. I think Ings had the better day probably. But I was pretty impressed with the work rate of them, and I think the formation requires that of them. The pressing and things like that needs to happen. And kind of lucky for us, I think Brighton was willing to play football and not go Burnley, and Brighton are not as good as Liverpool. So I think it's kind of it was a decent matchup.
Yeah, I think that, to be perfectly honest, if you try and play football against us to a certain extent, I think you'll struggle a lot more than if you go and play as Burnley did. We've all respected Burnley because Burnley have a game plan, and that's it. Burnley's tactic was a valid tactic. If you don't want to get pressed out of play in midfield, you don't want to get closed down, and have mistakes capitalised on in midfield, bypass the midfield. There we are, job done. And they did that. Brighton, they like to play football, and I think they have a very, very good manager as well. I think they'd be, I think they'd be all right, to be perfectly honest. But arguably they played better than us on the day yesterday. But you know what they say about it, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And, they don't have the points and we do. Mm-hmm. So, that's the way it works.
And I would say that Brighton's performance, they were better than us yesterday for large portions of the game. But even that, they were not stellar. They were not outstanding. It was not, they were not great. And we've had plenty of performances like that where we were probably slightly better than the other team, and yet we still allowed them to take the points through a mistake or something like that. So like this is what happens, I think, to teams in the middle of the table, especially is you are slightly better than a team, but not dominant enough to really establish yourself in a game. And Brighton really did. I mean, it was for the first 10 or 15 minutes, it was mostly Brighton. Even if we were throwing the ball in, I think I maybe said earlier, I'm not sure I was very clear there. But we struggled a little bit, and whether it's the formation, whether it's the newness of Danso in the lineup in an unfamiliar position to him, or whether it's just, guys are still trying to work on the system, and guys are trying to do new things, and they're trying to get used to new roles. And I think that all of that is valid and fine. But I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, I think we got what we needed. And I think that the away fans would have seen enough yesterday to say that the signs are there, that progress is still being made. And I think most fans will be happy with that. Yeah.
I think if you can win whilst you're not playing well, that's a good sign. A lot of people will say that's papering over the cracks, but sometimes that happens. You can win and not play well, and I think that that's what we did yesterday. And I think yesterday in the first half, I think there were kind of two incidents in particular that I think kind of really stood out for me that in the game, and I think that the first one was Adone's tackle. I mean, tackle putting it lightly on Valerie. Mm-hmm. That was a really disgraceful tackle. He could have a couple of inches to the left, or a couple of inches to the right. He could have he could have done serious damage to kind of Valerie's career.
Yeah.
And it was a straight up red card all day long. You don't need VAR for that.
No.
No. When someone goes in that high, and he reminds me very much of Mitrovic, okay. In that sense, because Mitrovic, when he kind of came over first playing for Newcastle, and especially when he was playing for Newcastle, but in his earlier career as well, he was the sort of player who, once his head had gone, some of the tackles and some of the things that he would do, absolutely outrageous. Now Mitrovic has learned to kind of curb that somewhat, and kind of is playing and manage to channel a bit more of that passion into being a footballer rather than a thug. But I think with that tackle, I think when you see kind of Adone, you look at that and you think, oh, it's a bit of a, he'd lost his head there. And that really did us a massive favour. Not a good tackle.
No.
No.
It was. I mean, last week against Liverpool, we had the situation where we were up a man for a couple of minutes with Milner's injury. We were able to take advantage. Yesterday, I'm not sure it didn't immediately change the game in our favor. I don't think, in that we didn't look all that much more dominant, but it definitely played a role in causing Brighton to have to shift kind of personnel and formation. Mm-hmm. And I think, obviously eventually I think that played a role in us getting the points. But I think the main thing there is that Valerie was able to get up and walk away from it, even if he didn't finish out the entire game. And you mentioned you don't need VAR for that. The TV camera for me was pulled all the way out for that shot, and so you could see Kevin Friend running over as soon as the tackle happens, and he's reaching for his back pocket right away. And it kind of made me sit up in my seat, because I just thought, from when I saw it, just looked like two guys came together. It actually looked like they turned their backs on each other almost. It didn't look like anything. And then you see him reach for the back pocket, and I kind of sat up and went like, oh, like what's happening? And then they immediately showed the replay, and it was like, oh my, like that was terrible. And, straight red. And you can, one of the other Brighton players is right in kind of in the background of the shot, and you can just see him head on hands as soon as it happens. And I think that tells you the whole story. And then they even came out and apologized for it afterwards. They said it was a bad tackle and he deserved to go off. And That's kind of stuff is, you can't have that. But he had Andone had had a couple of chances earlier, a couple of runs and things like that, caused us a little bit of an issue. And the announcers were kind of talking pretty big about him. And then for him to go, be frustrated by that or whatever, and then go off and do that is just unnecessary. And definitely, I mean, had that been a Saints player, we would have been super upset with him for kind of, potentially costing us the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You would look at that and you would say, if he'd stayed on, maybe the complexion of the game would probably have been different, because Brighton would have been able to play, with that extra man, have a man in the box, have someone in there to, causing trouble. Because if you cause trouble against our centre backs, you're going to get chances. So having that happen really, changed things. Brighton still played very well. But they didn't have that kind of, just didn't have an extra body. And I think that does count, because everyone's having to run a little bit harder, really.
Sure.
And then, of course, we had they had the disallowed goal, which was a case where, you hear a lot of people talking about VAR and thinking that it's a bad thing. Personally, with regards to that one, I almost don't think we didn't need it to go to VAR for that. The referee should have really blown up straight away, because you look at it, Dunk's header, Dunk's header goes in, and you look at it and you think, I can't see a clearer case of something being a blatant foul, or an offside, because the player was offside, the player was interfering with play, and he was obstructing the keeper.
Yep.
It's like the holy trinity of things that will get a goal disallowed.
Yeah.
So for the fact that there was a delay, really that was a bit frustrating for me, because I thought we don't need VAR to question that decision. That really should have been, referee should have seen that, blown up literally before the ball crossed the line.
Well, and the linesman should have been flagging that as well. And I think in a non-VAR situation, or last season, the flag does go up right away, and there's never a question. There's the Brighton doesn't get to celebrate at all. Brighton fans don't even get to really be upset about it at all. But because of the way things are now, that meant that there was a little bit of a delay. And I think that maybe there was a wake-up call for us, that even, given the situation we were in, this was not going to be easy, and we needed to be better than that. And, we got a little bit lucky, and I think we got better towards the end of the first half. I think, I think that we played the best we had in that first half at the very end going into the break. And I think that was important, because obviously I don't think Ralph was going to be super happy with how things were going. So I think that we would have had to come out and play a little bit better. And I was a little bit worried. We were going to walk away with a 0-0 draw, and that was not going to be what we needed, given we were up a man and we had a chance to go on the road in the Premier League and get 3 points. And that's something that you only get so many chances to do that if you're not a member of kind of the top six.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I think that another important element of this 3 points yesterday was the fact that it was an away game. In away games, you take, a point is brilliant, 3 points is fantastic. Both of them kind of are sometimes slightly unexpected from us. First half you're looking at it and you think, 0-0, or they're going to get something. Brighton are going to nick something, because you look at the bench and you go, oh, Glenn Murray's on the bench. And he just absolutely loves scoring against us.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you're like, oh, no. We've seen this happen before. And so, going in at half-time at 0-0, there was still a lot of work to be done. But I think that going into the second half, I think one positive, or one thing that I think is absolutely fantastic, were that the two changes, or all of the changes really, the changes that Ralph made, all pretty much made a difference on the game.
Yeah.
A smart use of substitutes really changed the game. And, I think that what you've got here is a really interesting, got a really interesting kind of conundrum here because, Djenepo being introduced at that part of the game, he was introduced and he changed the game almost immediately.
Yeah.
And with what? I mean, that goal, I think it was stunning. He gave the keeper absolutely no chance. It was the one place where, the keeper wasn't going to go. And he's looking like his cameo against Liverpool, and he's got a longer period of time yesterday against Brighton. Really showed that he's capable of something really good. He's obviously still very raw, but he's the sort of player that I really like. He looks like the sort of player fitting well with our model and our philosophy. And I think one thing that I kind of want to talk about is the fact is, and I think people may not want to hear this, but going from the fans forum a couple of weeks ago, and our general kind of business model, people may not want to hear this, but we do buy young players with potential to sell them on to make money. That is how we keep the lights on at this stadium. This is how we keep the club moving. This is how we keep signing younger players. Because the fact is, smart players will move to us, like Djenepo, and they know if I look good for Southampton and I play out of my skin every game, a bigger club's going to look at me. And really, if you look down the years, it's hard to disagree. Barring kind of Matt Le Tissier, the players who look their best for us are the ones who are constantly playing for a move.
Yeah.
You look at Van Dijk. You look at even kind of Alderweireld. You look at the big players who have left us. The smart players and the best players are the ones who are playing and they're constantly looking for a move.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm almost not that upset about it. And maybe that's wrong of me to say, but I think that, I don't know, like I think there are a lot of places where people are looking for a move. And if that's what motivates them, like I want the players to be motivated to play, and I want them to respect the club and respect the fans and do what's right there. But if their long-term goal is to play, somewhere else, like I don't have a problem with that, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that people need to get real with regards to why we need to do, why we need to do it. It's so we can make money and we can invest in more kind of elements in the club. We still want to attract the best young players who are sub 20 for the developmental squads and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But we also want to attract younger players, 21, 22-year-olds, everything up to kind of 25. We want to attract those players so that they can, play first team football for us and maybe progress on to something bigger. But also, I think one of the things they said, I think there's something like our wage bill had increased something like 30 million in the past 3 or 4 years. That's us standing still. That's us even regressing somewhat.
Yeah.
And our wage bill increases by that amount.
Uh-huh.
You look at that and you go, right, okay. Well, people will go, well, give these players bigger contracts. Give these players, what we want. We literally can't. We can't. Financial fair play means that our wages can't exceed a certain percentage of our turnover.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't sit there. We don't have the infinite funds, or we don't have the global reach of Liverpool yet. We don't have the reach of United. We don't have the merchandising sales. We don't have all of the other things that generate money for a club that enable them to pay the wages that players would like. If they they're going to go to a bigger club, or a bigger brand, so you could say, because they'll be able to, double their wages. I'll always bring up, Morgan Schneiderlin, because I know it was a while ago, but I think it's valid. When Schneiderlin was going to go to Manchester, went to Manchester United, we made him a final top offer of £70,000 a week. And United, probably knowing that he was going to be kind of, middle ranking player at the club, without breaking a sweat, can go, okay, we'll offer you a starting of 120,000 a week. So that's what you're competing against.
Yeah.
The chance to win trophies and the chance to, earn a kind of fantastical salary. And players will be looking at that and going, well, I want both, really. Football's a short career, and I'll do what I can in that respect. So, coming back to the overall kind of point that really wanted to make is that, most of these players and coaches and staff and people like that, if we find good ones, enjoy them while they're here, because they're here for a good time, not for a long time, and I'm happy with that. If we find enough one, that's great. If we don't, then that's when we start getting into trouble. But I think that he looks like a find. But I think that if these players are sensible, they'll be working hard, playing out of their skin, and looking to see what comes along, because ultimately it benefits us.
Yeah.
Best seasons we've had is when players play for a move.
Yeah. I mean, Djenepo came on yesterday and smiled constantly. Scored a goal. Got a yellow card. His second in 2 appearances. I think he's played maybe 45 minutes. I don't even think he's played that much in 2 yellow cards. So maybe that's going to be an issue defensively. But whatever. He doesn't stop smiling. He doesn't stop running. He doesn't stop trying things. And I think that's what we want. Like, we want somebody to come on and do that, because that's exciting. That's when somebody that's that young, I think, comes on and has no fear whatsoever. Almost doesn't recognize how he's supposed to feel in that situation. It's just, I'm going to go do what I do, and that's it. And I think it's great, and hopefully he doesn't lose that. And hopefully he continues, because that goal was just fantastic, and his celebration and the team, you could just see what it meant to everybody. And it was great. And then, I mean, he
already seems very well liked.
Yeah.
By everybody who he his teammates. I still find it mind blowing. Geographically for me, that I think that he lives in Bitton, which is where my nan grew up in Southampton. Which Matt, I don't think you'd have had the honour or the privilege of walking into Bitton precinct, and but it's just mind blowing to think that he lives there, and people have spotted him coming in and out of various shops and stuff like that. But he's a well liked. He already seems like a well liked lad, and he seems like he's kind of made friends and settled into the team, and it seems like it's a positive. He kind of brings a positivity to the team, which is nice, because you can tell players who are kind of maybe liked by members of the squad, but can be somewhat corrosive, if you know what I mean. I think when I look at it, I look at people like Charlie Austin, who was moved on. Austin is one of those people who's not for everybody, and I think that he may have rubbed a few people up the wrong way, internally and externally, with some of his behaviour. He doesn't come across very well sometimes.
No, I guess I can dislike somebody, but then also respect them for being themselves. And I think there was, if you look at Charlie Austin, and you read his comments before he ever came to us, and you look at kind of his attitude and things like that, he was just being himself. And we can be mad at him and we could be upset in the moment, but if you really take a step back and just look at who he is and how he acts, I think that's just it. And people can change, and maybe he will, and maybe things are just bad for him right now, and he'll be happier elsewhere, and hopefully he is. Cause I don't really wish people harm. It's just not worth it,
No.
you know? But I mean, yeah, you got guys like him, you got guys like Mario Lemina, who obviously, you know, things are not going well for at the club, and hopefully we sort out a move for him. But, I mean, I think you look at his personal life too, things don't look super great from the outside. It looks like, his longtime girlfriend is no longer appearing in his Instagram stories, nor is she, shooting Instagram stories from their home. So it looks like that's done. And she's now started following Jan Valerie on Instagram and commenting. So I don't know how that works. It can't be great, you know? But
yeah, I think that's very, yeah. I mean, you know, that's all the off-field stuff. I can fully appreciate it with kind of Mario in that sense, because, you know, I think that's not just his girlfriend. That's the mother of his child.
Yeah,
and I think I think that would spin anyone out. In fairness,
sure.
So you know, I think that he wanted to. I think he wanted to leave. He wants to go. You know, maybe he associates this whole period with that. Yeah. I think we've had that before with players. We had that with Kevin Phillips when he played for the club. He had a number of kind of personal issues in his marriage when he was down here at Southampton. And that kind of culminated in him kind of leaving, really.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes players just see being at a certain place and they associate it with kind of a not a great time in their life personally, and they just want to go. And to be honest, I understand that. And if that's the case, you know, then, you know, I hope that they get the moves that they deserve. You know, I don't bear any ill will against, you know, like I said, I don't think Austin fitted in very well with the kind of mentality at Southampton, or certainly kind of the philosophy at times. I know that he was fond of going out on, and having him and Jack Stevens were very, very fond on horse racing and boozing, basically. So, you know, those are two things. So I don't think that would necessarily fit in with a teetotal Austrian who is very much kind of a details orientated person, which maybe why Stevens is finding himself out in the cold at the moment.
Sure.
But you know, with these players who are on their way out, you know, I think best of luck to them. I hope that Carrillo, I don't bear any ill will towards him in particular. I think he was a buy that didn't fit in with our ideology at all. And he needed to, so I really hope for him that he finds a good, you know, an exit. He's not in there causing trouble.
Right.
He doesn't strike me as someone who's, you know, particularly got, you know, that much of a troublemaker.
No.
You know what I mean? He's just a bad buy, and I really hope we find a solution for him so that we can kind of get him moved on, and he can get back to doing what he does best, which is, you know, playing football and enjoying it. I think, you know, that's the minimum that you'd like. You'd like all of these players to be playing football, and enjoying it. And if they don't enjoy playing for Southampton, then it's best that they play kind of somewhere else for them and for us. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
earlier we kind of mentioned the changes that Ralph had made during the match and bringing Djenepo on and having impact, but later on, I guess one thing that was different is, I mean, basically we brought Djenepo on twice now and kind of removed any idea of having an actual like legitimate fullback on the pitch and just had wide players. And I don't know if we shifted to a back three at that point or what happened, but I couldn't really make it out at that point. But eventually Boufal comes on as well and also has an impact and also looks lively and also looks like he is enjoying the football, and which we, you know, like we both talked about, is important. And him beating that guy and then you know, Redmond getting in at the back post, sneaking in behind a defender, just, you know, he put it in from Raheem Sterling range where all he had to do was just block it into the goal, and it was it was fantastic. It's so good to see Redmond get off the mark, Boufal to have a role, for us to see a move that worked, and have, like, you know, Boufal has that little bit of individual quality and that individual kind of creativity, and I think the football intelligence for the most part to be able to put that in and do that and kind of create the chance that just sealed the game, and I think just gave us all this huge kind of sense of relief.
Yeah, I think that Boufal is an impact player. That's what I see him as, and that's what he did yesterday. And the one thing is, you know, you have kind of everyone. You know, Boufal's one of those players. I think he's a Twitter player. I think he's a YouTube player. I think he's one of those players that people rave over. You know, because you can look at highlights, you can look at, you know, blah blah blah. He had the most dribbles in La Liga last season. You know, more than Messi. But what I liked most about yesterday is what he should be doing. And this is it. I think I said this earlier in the week. Boufal's an excellent player, but what he needs to do is and what we need to see him do is goals and assists. That's what he needs to do. It's all, you know, it's amazing seeing step overs. It's amazing seeing a player take on two or three players, but you need to have an end product with that. And seeing him come on and do that, provide a fantastic pass across the goal, you know, for Redmond. Like you said, you know, it would have been harder for Redmond to miss that. But that's what we wanted to see from him. And it looks like, you know, I was furious with him when he refused to, you know, like a couple of seasons ago, he refused to warm up for Chelsea and he had a falling out with Hughes.
Right.
You know, I still wouldn't defend that. I still think, you know, regardless of what you think of a manager, you should play, because you're not playing for the manager, you're playing for your teammates sometimes. And, you know, when he scored that fantastic individual goal against West Brom, first thing he seemed to do is he was kind of more interested in running across to Pellegrino and kind of, you know, telling him, you know, you shouldn't be, you know, basically kind of getting up in his face. But I think that, you know, he seems to have come back to the club, and I think that he seems to have kind of come back to a club where he's had some time away, maybe he's matured a little bit, and everything's, and, you know, he's come back to a bit of a better environment, really, with kind of, you know, coaches who seem to have a game plan and know what they're doing, and they maybe kind of manage him a bit better. You know, maybe they just know what he needs. Ralph likes to have those one-to-ones with players, and have a conversation with them. And I think that he is a sort of, I think Boufal's the sort of lad who, he is very much like, he's the sort of player who responds to, you know, someone putting their arm around your shoulder and having a chat with him and going, you know, come on, you can do better than this, or, you know, let's do this, or I really like this, I'd love to see a bit more of this. I think he responds to that sort of management rather than sort of, you know, the slightly kind of, you know, top-down dictatorial style that some other managers, you know, some of our other managers may have had. You know, I'm kind of thinking kind of Hughes in particular. Yeah. But you know, I think that's a good thing. And if we have him back and firing like that, then, you know, he's a great option to have on the bench. I'm not sure if he's a starter. But I certainly, you know, because I certainly think you need more kind of tactically focused players on from the start of a game. But I certainly think he's someone who you can bring on, and he's just, you know, he's just a disruptor. He just disrupts games. With his talent, you know, and he has the potential to do something unexpected. If you've got that sort of player you can bring on 70 plus minutes, you know, that's the sort of player you can bring on. That's a great option to have, really. Yeah. So yeah. You know, and like I said, you know, put it on a plate for Redmond, and then you know, and 2-0, and then we're going away with 3 points out of a game that arguably we didn't really deserve. So you know, that's good. Yeah, good.
Yeah. I mean, if we did it every week, I think you would eventually go like, you know, this might not be great long term, because it eventually won't happen. But the way we went about it yesterday is just the way you have to do it sometimes. And I think if you look, I think our XG, not that I want to get super caught up in that. Last week against Liverpool, we had a higher XG than they did. We created the better chances, and we didn't. We just couldn't finish. And Brighton had chances yesterday. I forget who it was. Somebody, I think it was Lacardia, maybe missed from what had to be a half a foot away, and managed to get. I think somebody managed to get a hand on it or a body part on it and get it onto the post, and it's off. But like there were moments there where we were on the edge, and it all just kind of went our way yesterday from the red card to their disallowed goal to us to Djenepo's shot finding the back of the net out of nowhere. And I think all of that I think is we just have to be thankful that that's the way it went. We have to look and say the guys kept in it, they kept at it. Things didn't necessarily happen for them all game, but they didn't put their heads down, they didn't drop their shoulders, they didn't do any of that stuff. They just kept at it and kept doing it. I think that's what we want. And
it happened when it mattered.
Yep.
And the score doesn't matter at 85 minutes. The score doesn't matter at 1 minute, 85 minutes. Score matters at 90 or when the ref blows his whistle. And that's ultimately what it was. People won't remember the performance, but they'll remember the fact that, the 3 points are there, and that's on the docket, Yeah.
I mean, in the end, we wind up with more attempts on target with the same number of attempts. Possession basically even. They had more corners, but in the end, it did kind of even out, even if it didn't feel like that, even if it felt like Brighton maybe deserved a little bit more. So I'll happily take that. Like the fact that Glenn Murray did not score, because I even typed some derogatory things when he came on the pitch. Because I was worried about him doing it, because he just seems to make our lives miserable when we do it. But I say we move on. We got a couple of other things we should discuss, and we're running out of a little bit of time.
Sorry.
No, it's not you. It's I'm enjoying the conversation, and I think that's why we're here. So, cool. I mean, I do want to point out there were some other things that happened this week. And I'm not going to pretend to know anything about Kitzbühel or something, whatever his name is.
No, yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's Kitzbühel or something like that. Yeah,
I've probably spelled it wrong on here, which is totally not okay to do.
But you may have spelled it wrong. I've absolutely probably mangled the pronunciation. So I think that I think that's totally fine. Yeah, to be perfectly honest,
we have a new assistant coach, and
we do.
And I'm not going to pretend to know anything about him, but just on a workload kind of front, do you think Ralph kind of needed this? Do you think it was because he didn't seem necessarily initially like he was going to rush to replace him, and then all of a sudden it seemed like, well, maybe we do need that with Roll kind of leaving. So I mean, do you think this is a good move, just kind of in general, just in terms of the work that Ralph was putting in? Maybe the extra stuff doesn't quite work, and now maybe that's more balanced for him.
Well, I think he needs someone who can specifically focus on the opposition. Okay. I think having an opposition coach, which is what this guy is coming to do, analysing the opposition alongside Ralph, I think that's probably where he kind of needed the help. I don't think it's necessarily getting people to do more sprints. It's more kind of a lot of kind of video analytics and kind of really preparing the detailed elements of it, which is what I think kind of Danny Roll's role was, to kind of provide that sort of in-depth kind of analytics on our opponents, and what this new guy is doing as well. I think it's an incredibly important role for us, because Ralph is a details-orientated manager. So yeah, I think it's a good move. What made me laugh is that I think that the club put out a statement once Danny Roll left, saying, "Oh, Ralph's entirely comfortable with the situation. He thinks everything's kind of totally fine. We can carry on." But then I think that someone at the club may have got a phone call from Ralph going, "No, I'm not very comfortable with this. I want a like-for-like replacement."
Sure.
Because I think that's what he needs. I think that's genuinely. I think that is a piece of the puzzle that needed filling. So, I don't think in terms of an assistant, I don't think it's like this isn't a guy who's putting out all of the little kind of training bollards and kind of inflating the set piece people for the goalkeeper training. This is someone who's there to provide a very specific. He's got a very specific brief. What he's done, and it's what he's done before. I think he's worked with Roger Smith. Roger Smith's a similar style of manager. They are there to, he's there to provide in-depth analytics and analysis of the opponent, and I think that's a good thing. I think having someone like him on board, that's a positive for us, because the more we know, the more we can do. The more that we can, better kind of prepare ourselves for opponents. So if he focuses on the opponents, Ralph can focus on, getting the team ready for that and coming up with solutions. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a good thing.
Yeah. In transfer news, the outgoings are still being worked on, and Fraser Forster this week got a move back to Celtic on a season-long loan, and I think. I don't know. I think personally, I think it's a good move. It's always a little bit weird to see guys go back to where they came from. But I think from everything I've read, it seems like Celtic are really happy to have him back, and I think he is happy to go back and hopefully contribute. And I know he's at time of recording, he was announced in the starting lineup. I don't know how it's going, but I mean, for you, for Fraser Forster, I think we talked before, has produced some of the goalkeeping moments or matches that are most kind of ingrained in my memory in terms of being a Saints fan, and I wish him the absolute best while he's there and after that. So I mean, for you, you think this is a good move for him in terms of, and us, I guess, in terms of his career and his, I guess, just his ability to go back and kind of be comfortable being the number one again?
Yeah, it's a win-win for us. I know that Fraser's kind of potentially had kind of off the field personal issues, and the club have supported him throughout that. I know that he was offered the opportunity to leave last season, but he didn't feel ready to leave. I think, mentally he wasn't in a good place, and I think that the statement kind of coming out of the club was that he didn't feel ready to be a number one again anywhere else. I think that he's had another year. He's been in a good environment. He's been around kind of colleagues and teammates, going into work every day, and he is going somewhere where arguably I'd say that it's lower pressure being in the SPL. And also he's going to somewhere where he's enjoyed some time there. I'm not always a big advocate of going back. But I think in this situation, it's a good option for him because, he knows some of the players who are up there. He's going from one, close-knit environment to another one, really. And I think that's a good thing for him. He's well remembered by the Celtic fans. Celtic have got, a great fan base and they're happy he's back. So, I think it's a win-win for us, and I really do kind of wish him all the best. He's had some fantastic performances. I think a really serious injury that he had against Burnley a few seasons ago definitely changed the way he was as a goalkeeper. I always say this. You'll notice with Foster throughout the game that he'll always be stretching in his 6-yard box. He'll always be kind of stretching because his lower body, his legs and his ligaments down there, they're not the same. He's not able to kind of get down necessarily quite as quickly as he used to, and I think that we kind of saw that to some extent. But I think the only way of kind of testing that really for him is to be out there playing competitively, and I'm happy for him, and I really do wish him the best. And fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. If he's happy up there, then next season, I know there's not necessarily like an obligation or anything like that, but we could see him kind of moving back up there on a permanent basis. But we'll see. But I'm happy for him. Really happy for him.
Baby steps. He is probably not ready to just dive in and be sold, and the whole upheaval of your entire life can cause some other issues, but on and off the pitch. So let's hope that he just enjoys his time up there and enjoys playing again and enjoys the competition and all that stuff, because that's important. And a lot of those guys, that's what they, if you lose that love, then the putting in the extra training and just picking yourself up when things don't go for you is difficult. So hopefully that kind of helps him out.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a couple of questions here, and
right.
And I mean, do you mind answering a couple of these?
No, love it. Yeah, bring it on.
All right. So at Saints World FC asked us a question about Ralph telling Adam Leach that Danso was always going to start at left back ahead of Bertrand. We talked about that a little bit, but patrons of the show get priority for having their questions answered, and we have a couple from them. So Rob, who's at RJCSFC, says, how would you line up the defense long term after seeing how well Danso played? And for me personally, I thought Danso's a perfectly capable footballer. I thought he was good on the ball and everything else. I'm not sure I want to see him at left back again. I would like, especially in the 4-2-2-2, where even our wide midfielders play more narrow, and the width has to be taken up by the fullbacks. I think we need a fullback who's comfortable doing that. I'm not sure Danso is that person. I think he's right-footed. He's on the wrong side. You can see him constantly checking back and making those passes back into midfield or back into Vestergaard. And so I'm not sure I want that, but what would you do to answer Rob's question? What would you do kind of with the defense, given that now he's here and he can play football?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good, obviously what we'd be looking at is be looking at kind of Bertrand and Valerie, and then we're looking at the centre-back pairing. I mean, my priority, my preference would probably be either Bednarek and Danso, or Yoshida and Danso. I just, Vestergaard, I just think is too kind of slow for this level. But I think those are the partnerships that I'd like to see, certainly for this season. Obviously, kind of with Vestergaard kind of coming in and filling one of those spots if they're not available. But I'd like to see us stick with a 4-2-2-2. I think it's the correct formation for us, and I just think we've just got to commit. If we can't talk about a formation, we've got to play the formation, and I think that's the right formation for us. And the more the players are familiar with it, the better the performances will be. So yeah.
Okay. There were instances yesterday where Brighton had a lot of pace, and several times kind of that space in behind Danso when he was kind of caught halfway in between gave Vestergaard real problems. And that does worry me a little bit going forward if Vestergaard is there in a 2, especially because he doesn't have as much cover. And I am worried, but I think Vestergaard is I guess one thing I wanted to point out is in the past couple of weeks, and even during preseason, I think we've seen Vestergaard from that left center back spot in the back 3 be able to switch the ball out to Valerie on the right. He is good at making that long diagonal pass. And yesterday, so much of our attack came down the left-hand side with Redmond that we didn't make that switch to, and force Brighton to spread out and check back over to the right side. And I would have liked to have seen that a little bit. And I don't know if that's the product of him just not having as much time on the ball in a 2 or what it was. But if you're taking that kind of that long diagonal pass away from him and us being able to kind of, I don't know, even if we lose the ball there, we can press up there and get it back. And I just think that was I didn't see it enough yesterday, and I would have liked to have seen it. And maybe that's a result of, Valerie having 1.5 knees instead of 2 after that tackle, but we'll see. Let's see. We got a couple other ones from Instagram. This one's from Millard505. Djenepo and Boufal looked great when they came on against Brighton. Do you think we should see them in the starting lineup?
Djenepo, yes. Boufal, no, not yet. Yeah, like I said earlier, I think that Boufal, using him as an impact player, I just, I'd like to see a bit more end product before I say, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him as a starter. I think there are more consistent players ahead of him.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that the guys have a role that they play, and not that, if Ralph's having these one-on-ones and these guys are saying, look, I'm comfortable in the role I'm in. I want to do what's best for the team. I like coming on and having an impact. I think then there's not necessarily a need to change that right away. If we think it's best for the team, it's when those guys think, look, I'm doing all of this so that I can get into the starting lineup, and then they don't get that chance. I think that's when you start to see kind of the discontent kind of be there. But if Ralph has got his hand around Boufal or his arm around Boufal and has said, we can, this is what I need from you, and you are doing great. Go out there and do this for, I need 12 or 15 hard minutes from you. I think that's fine. I think we've seen, in instances where people were asking for Sims to start games, and he would start, and he just wouldn't have quite the impact that he did, coming off the bench late in games. And so I think that everybody's got a role to play, and I think that's where those guys are now. I'm perfectly fine with those guys coming off of the bench. Somebody mentioned on Twitter, JWP didn't look quite as good as he did last season. And so if that's the case, then maybe at one point somebody will come in and start a game for him. But I think he plays a certain kind of role, and he's willing to do the running and willing to do the pressing, willing to make late runs into the box, and then also is on set piece duty. So I think that those things, he's added enough to his game for me to keep his spot. So
and also it's 3 games in.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's that whole thing. One of the things that I get a bit frustrated about is the calling it now brigade on Twitter. You're like, calling it now, we're going to finish, we're going to get relegated.
Sure.
Or calling it now, this lad's not going to be a very good player. Mm-hmm. Or calling it now, so and so is going to have an awful season. It's too early. It's far too early this season. Every season's different, and some players take longer to kind of get up and running and into the kind of swing of things than others. So I think it's too early to make kind of long-term predictions. Just take each game as it comes, really. And but I'm confident that James Ward-Prowse is a good player. And you're right. I think that, he may not, he certainly doesn't have the trickery of some of the other players that we're talking about. But, I think, I said, if you want a set piece 25 yards out, you want a set piece, who do you want taking it? Do you want Boufal taking it, or do you want Ward-Prowse taking it? I know who I'd want taking it.
Yeah, no doubt whatsoever. All right, one more. From Fred Lazaro 2011 on Instagram, who's also one of the patrons of the show. And people can send in their questions on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or via email, however they want. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. There's a lot to talk about this week, and we didn't really even talk about Josh Sims coming on late last night for the Red Bulls, which I just want to say, like, Jeremy Orr and I, Jeremy Orr is a Bay Area fan, and we went from, he drove to my house, and I can't remember even if we talked about this, Santa Maria. Sorry. He drove from Oakland to Santa Maria, and then we drove from Santa Maria down to LA. So he drove 8 hours in the car, essentially, maybe even 10 hours, to get down there, and to find out that Josh Sims had not made the trip out because he didn't have, the visa or whatever all worked out. So he couldn't even play yet. And so we watched a nice game of football. We saw 6 goals. It was great. But we were there to support Josh Sims, and he was not even in the building. And that's the last time he's going to be on the West Coast this year. So we won't see him play, but he came on, and I guess looked decent, but I didn't watch the game because I was at a U.S. second division game, my first ever. And, the whole family, really, really enjoyed it. So, missed that.
Can I just make a point on that? I just want to make a real kind of quick point on that. The whole situation about people, criticising people supporting Southampton who are not from Southampton, or choose to say wear a jersey or support a team in a way that they don't feel is the right way to support a team. there is no right or wrong way to support a team unless you're beating someone up or racially abusing somebody. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, like you just said there, you've got people, someone makes an 8-hour journey to watch one of our players on loan play. People make transatlantic flights to go and come and see Southampton play often pretty dismal dismal games of football. Okay. Yeah. If someone wants to wear a football shirt, if someone wants to travel on a bus to a game, if someone wants to do, if someone wants to show their support in a way that's different to you, let them do that. They have every right to do that. And it's one of those things. Sorry, I just wanted to get off my chest because it really annoys me. No. Because I was born and bred in Southampton. As far as I'm concerned, if you support Southampton, you're all right with me. You can support the club however you want, and I don't have a problem with that. And I think that, football is a game of opinions, but most importantly, it's a game of showing how you love a football team and showing how you support them. And, if someone's willing to travel 8 hours to go and watch one of our players on loan and find out that player's not playing, I mean, that's more of a commitment to, that's as much of a commitment to me as leaving your house in Woolston and walking across the Itchen Bridge to go and watch us. Yeah. So fair play to any Southampton fan, wherever they are and however they choose to support us.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make that clear. Sorry, because it annoys me, frankly, and I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Sorry, that's a bit of a rant from me.
I have to apologize. I mean, I appreciate that, and I think the majority of fans are decent people, and then there are the loud ones sometimes who have to voice their opinion and their thoughts on people and prove reasons why they are better. I mentioned it earlier, but my family and I, we went to our, if you want to call it our local team. It's a 3-hour drive each way, and
exactly
I was so happy yesterday that I had my wife, daughter, and son who, my son likes Arsenal, but does he watch them every week? Does he have to do that? No, he likes to go to games. He's told me, I like going to games. I don't necessarily want to sit and watch on TV. But we sat at a second division soccer game last night, or football game, and had the absolute best time with Dave Lee, another Saints supporter who drove up from Bakersfield with his wife, and we just sat there and had a fantastic time in the 100-degree heat at kickoff, and it was a fantastic night. I am exhausted today and dehydrated, but I mean we had a great time, and for us that's as close as we can get to going down and watching our local team, and it was great. But yeah, I appreciate your comments there.
No worries, man. No worries.
All right, one more. Right. So from Fred Lazaro, 2011, he says Saints were luckier than they were good today. Even up a man, they seem to always be one accurate shot by Brighton away from dropping points. Does the team just need more time to gel, or does Ralph need more tinkering?
I think it's a balance between that. If you kind of looked at that as a kind of as a pie chart, I'd think it's probably like 60% the team adapting to things. Players bedding in, finding their feet. Shea Adams will only get better with time. Our new signings will only get better with time. The players will get used to playing in this formation. A little bit with Ralph tinkering, because he just needs to find out who are his 100% solid starters. But I think we're closer to that now. We're closer to knowing that now. I think that's the situation that we're in. I think that it's a little bit of both, but predominantly I think it's about the players kind of settling into the league and this style of play.
Yeah,
but I think we're coming along, and also I mean I think we're always one shot away from disaster because we're Southampton Football Club.
Yeah, that's true, and I guess life is more exciting that way, even if it's not in a good way.
I would always say that. Yep, so like supporting Southampton, it's often infuriating. Occasionally transcendent, but for the most part, it's a trudge.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
That's right. That's why we do it. Well, Ben, this has been, I've had a fantastic time talking. We talked before we recorded, and it's been great to catch up with you. It's been too long. But people can find you on Twitter and get your ideas there at Archers Road End. You're also on Instagram at Archers Road End.
Yep.
And then the blog is archersroadend.wordpress.com. And if people want to look you up there and stay in touch and make sure they are following along for when you write about it, about the team again, I think people will be more than happy to have you back and doing that. And
thank you.
This has been great, man. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, and thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And that does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. Special thanks this week goes out to Ben Hernandez-Stroud, who is the Archers Road End. You can follow him on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Archers Road End. You can also get his writing at archersroadend.wordpress.com. There are links in the show notes to follow all of those. He's a great follow. It's a great read. Don't hesitate to go and do that. Special thanks this week also goes out to all of you who are listening. Thank you for your support, for writing in, for letting me know, for getting in touch, for asking your questions. You guys all help make the show better each and every week. And for those of you over at patreon.com/SFC Delivery, thank you for all the support. You have allowed me to do new things and try new things. And I hope that you're enjoying the experience as much as I am. If you want to follow this show on social media, you can do that. We are on Twitter and Instagram at SFCDELL_IVERY. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/SFC Delivery. You can follow the show or subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There are links on the show website at southamptondelivery.com. There are links in the show notes to get there as well. This week on the Instagram page, we had a guest post from Matt Beling. Matt does the logo for the show. He used to be the man behind the We Are Southampton page on Instagram. Now he's just awesome, and he does stuff, and it's great. The Southampton page is the official partner page of the show. Without their support, many of you would not be listening to the show right now. So if you don't follow them already, at Southampton page on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, you should do that. Also, be sure to check out their new YouTube channel. Jem is doing some fantastic things over there, so go there, check it out. Once again, links are in the show notes. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games, and the end show credits that you're listening to now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. That does it for this week. We'll be back again next week after Man United. And in the build-up to that, be sure to check out The Ugly Inside. Freddie was kind enough to invite me back on for the match build-up show, so that should be out later this week. And until then, remember that together, we march on.